What's up, everybody? It's Cameron with Reels and Wheels, and I am very excited to do my first interview ever on this page. I'd like to introduce to you Clay Sullivan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I am wonderful.
And I would not be lying if I'm really nervous right now, but
I,
I think once we get going into it,
I
it'll be refreshing.
definitely. I'd say we're both pretty nervous. This is definitely my first interview as well, so we'll just go with the flow and see what happens.
Okay, that makes you feel better that it's your first.
Yes,
Now Clay, where are you from?
I am originally born and raised in Houston, Texas.
Oh man. Are you an NFL guy?
I am an NFL guy, but I followed the Tennessee Titans, which used to be the Houston Oilers back in the
Mm-hmm.
90s. So, of course, I moved up to Tennessee and followed my Oilers. Well, that's what I say, but that's really not the truth.
Well, thank goodness. So you're a Titans fan?
Of course, 100% through and through. Titans blue. Let's go, baby.
Man, what do you think about the season
I
coming up?
believe I believe we are due. We are due for a Super Bowl, right? To come up inches short.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, with Eddie George.
Yeah, I really think that we are due, but people have talked a lot of trash.
Of course.
So
Titans haters. You got to have them.
yeah, I've had people tell me we got Hopkins. They don't mean nothing.
Right.
I'm like,
Facts.
it's Hopkins though. He's not. He's in a way different stage in his career than Julio Jones was when we brought him in. I
Definitely.
believe.
For
Uh,
sure.
so Uh, how was it growing up there?
In Houston,
Mm-hmm.
Texas. Well, I come from what I would like to say a two path different lifestyle with my mother and my father. My father was a deacon of the church, vice
Okay.
president of the Rotary Club. He was a philanderer where he cheated on his wife with my mother and impregnated her. And I came along, and my mom was like a free spirited hippie type woman. And my mom always taught me to just be me. And my
Okay.
father was pretty structured, and he was, pretty straightforward as far as the Texas way and the upbringing and the raising as a young son. I can remember him telling me to grab my ankles, and let me tell you, when he said grab them ankles, that belt was coming off.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was a rescuer. I could get away with murder with my
Okay.
mom, and so she always saved me. But I was an only child, and yeah, I kind of just the upbringing was different, right? So I was able to learn at a very young age how to manipulate both parents, and
Okay.
giving my father what he wanted out of me, and
Mm-hmm.
giving my mother what she wanted out of me.
Okay. So would you say with the cheating going on, did you say that with your about your dad?
Yes,
Wait. So would you consider that you grew up in a broken home
one hundred
at all?
percent guaranteed.
Okay. Well, because
Yep.
I know what it's like to, because I grew up in a broken home. My mom and dad divorced way early on in my life. I don't even remember them being together, and it was definitely different for me too.
Yeah, for sure. No, I will say, Cam, and I'm not putting blame on my life and the path that I took, but definitely growing up in the situation that I was raised in, it led me to choose the wrong decisions and the wrong friends and the wrong
Okay.
answers, for sure.
All right. So how was your childhood?
Well, I mean, like I said, I was able to get away with so much with my mom. I was that kid that was sneaking out and pushing my mom's car down the driveway, taking it on joy rides.
Oh man.
I was that teenager that was in his bedroom drinking 40 ounces of Old English with my buddies that were passing it up onto the roof, and for us to sneak it into the house through the window so we didn't have to walk past my mother. I was that kid that pretty much my mother dealt with an alcohol addiction,
Mm.
and so when she would pass out from drinking, that's when I could just act a complete fool, and there was no consequences because I knew that mom would always come and rescue me.
Now, that's kind of ironic because my mom dealt with addiction, not alcohol addiction, but drug addiction.
Right.
And for a while, I was just too young to really realize what was going on, so it didn't make sense to me at the time. But now I know a little bit. My mom's been sober at least 15 years. I feel like
That's
13
awesome.
years, and it's awesome
Yeah,
that she changed her life out of that.
for sure. Definitely. It's someone to look up to, right? As a kid growing up, you want someone to look up to, an idol, and be like. And I had always thought that it was my father. So what I ended up doing was taking the good that I could out of what my opinion was out of my dad, and took the good from my mother, and molded this guy right here.
That's awesome to hear. Now obviously something isn't quite right with you, but
Yeah.
I can't quite figure out what it is.
I've been searching for those answers for quite some time, Cam. I still don't think I've been able to figure it out myself.
Okay, so I gotta ask, what were you born with one arm, or was there an accident?
What? I'm missing my arm.
Oh, you
No,
didn't
no, I'm
know?
just
They
kidding. I'm
didn't
just
update
kidding.
you?
Yeah. So when I was 9 years old, I've got family in Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Fourth of July weekend. My father and my cousin and my uncle and we traveled up to spend the Fourth of July weekend with them. And to make a long story short, we were kneeboarding. Have you ever heard of
Kneeboarding.
kneeboarding?
Is it similar to wakeboarding?
So it's similar to wakeboarding, but it's the same board, but you're on your knees.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people do
Right.
that.
So we were
Heard about it.
kneeboarding, yeah,
I
and
don't. I don't think I've ever done it, but
yeah. Well, we should go kneeboarding sometime. Maybe I'll
maybe.
lose. Maybe I won't lose another arm.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. No. So we were kneeboarding, and my father was driving the boat. My cousin Elise, she was younger than I was. Her and I were sitting at the front of the boat. My cousin Trey, it was his turn to go. He was the one kneeboarding, and as we were getting started, Trey was waving his hand to go faster, and Elise kept standing up,
Mm-hmm.
and my father was telling her to sit down, and I'm screaming, "Go faster, go faster!" So there was a lot going on with that man at the time, and I can only imagine now, being a grown man, what he was under as far as the pressure with so much going on.
Yeah.
And so we passed the wake of another boat, and Elise stood up, and it sprung her over the side of the boat, and she was holding on. My father was screaming at me to grab a hold of her, and so I grabbed a hold of her. My father was trying to grab a hold of me, let go of the steering wheel, and we hit the next wake, and the
Oh
steering wheel
man.
yanked. The steering wheel turned, and when it turned, his body hit the throttle, and so it gave it full
Oh.
throttle. So
Oh
it just
God.
slung us all across the canal off of the Mississippi River, and I can remember, I can remember looking up and seeing the boat just violently out of control. And once a boat turns, it stays turned.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a life jacket on. I tried to fight it and get out of the way, and I was run over multiple times.
Oh man.
I've got a huge scar on my leg where it almost amputated my leg off. But the arm was sacrificed to the boating accident. My father swam over to me, and I can remember still to this day, Cam. I can remember the smell. It was like I stuck my face underwater
Mm-hmm.
and smelt the water, and not knowing how much trauma really took place with the event
Mm-hmm.
because I was so young, Um, But my father swam over to me, and his first words were, "Son, are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know, Dad." And I remember looking down and just seeing these big veins flow, and of
Oh,
course losing them consciousness and loss of blood. I was fading in and out. So
oh
yeah, it was
man,
a pretty traumatic experience amongst my family.
that had to have been traumatizing.
But you know what's crazy though, Cam, is I actually woke up in the hospital bed, and I can remember this like it was yesterday. Um, my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family were arguing and fighting,
Hmm.
and so my first words were, "Will y'all just please quit fighting? It'll grow back."
Oh
thinking,
my god.
thinking like little fingers will poke
And no
out, and
telling what kind of
right,
medication
and
they
that
were
would
on.
just be like, whoa, right, and I think it was like a lizard's tail that would just grow back.
Yeah.
I'll grow another arm. What are y'all fighting for? But really, they were fighting over who I was going to go home with, and probably one of the
Mm,
hardest decisions that I've still to this day ever had to make. And I blame my father and mother still to this day, of course, as well.
man.
They made me decide who I was going to go home with after such a traumatic boating accident. So,
So it
yeah,
was basically your decision to decide.
so
Did
yeah,
they
they made me decide, and I'm gonna
did they at least give you time to like think on it, or
yeah,
did
you
they
would
kind
think
of rush
so,
you?
right? You would think so. No, me at the time, I was thinking as a 9-year-old child, I was thinking my father had remarried. He had my younger sister. His family was intact, where my mother was just by herself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like I needed to go home to my mom and be the man of the household, not thinking about the traumatic experience of losing a limb and how to figure life out.
Yeah,
And that's on a whole nother subject because Cam, to be honest with you, it came natural to me. I didn't have to practice having one arm.
it came natural.
It came natural. Yes, sir.
Man,
Yeah, I didn't
that
have to.
what a story though
Yeah,
to bounce back from that. But
for sure.
how did you handle it at the time? Like being 9 years old. I know with me, I was diagnosed at a very young age before I even realized. Because obviously, losing an arm at 9, you're going to realize that more than someone at 4 or 5 years old getting diagnosed, and which is how my situation was. So for a while, I mean, I was doing good. And then when I started getting like confined, relying on wheelchairs more, and it kind of progressed a little bit, I I handled the situation with either music or me. It was Xbox. I played a lot of Xbox back when I was in pretty much like 8 or 9 to like middle school, and so I was just wondering like how did you
You know,
handle it from being.
that's such a good question. Thank you for asking that question. That's a really good question. And at the time when this accident happened,
Hmm.
Cam, Nintendo had just come out.
Nintendo?
And my mother had bought me a Nintendo. And then when they called her to tell her that her son was in a severe boating accident where he had lost his arm,
Hmm.
she threw the Nintendo up against the wall and, of course, was like, "How is he going to play this?"
Mm.
Um, for me, I think my driven with embracing being different
Hmm.
at such a young age and liking the fact that there was attention all the time, and still to this day, being a 41-year-old man, I have stares
Hmm.
and questions on, if you don't mind me asking, which that's just part of my life, right?
Hmm.
And it's okay, and I am told it's a conversation starter for me though, Cam,
Hmm.
to where I want people to come up and ask, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to your arm? And I've got a good friend of mine that he came up with the bright idea that he gets to tell the story how I lost my arm. If
Hmm.
somebody asks how I lost my arm, he can come up with whatever he wants to come up with, and I've got to go. I've got to go with it.
Hmm.
So, fun fact: his last story he told was that I was this pro surfer in California, surfing in this competition where a great white jumped up and ate my arm.
Oh my
So
gosh,
I mean, I think the cool thing is like going with it
that's
and
hilarious.
enjoying just being who you are,
Like
and
kind of just like embracing it and
definitely
joking about it
for
when
sure
it's like it is serious. But if you can joke about it, it makes it not as it makes it not as serious to laugh on it.
facts.
Because we do stuff like that too. Like my mom told people back at our old church like that she fell down the stairs pregnant with me or something, which actually did happen.
Right.
There was a
Oh, that's
tornado.
right.
I don't know. There was
Sorry, I
a
don't mean to laugh.
no, but there was a tornado, and the basement, the stairs were really steep,
Yeah.
and she tumbled on like the last few,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm sure she was scared.
Well, yeah, of course. She went into mother protection mode. But I mean, to answer your question, for the most part, it wasn't something that I had to embrace as far as like music
Hmm.
or some kind of like calming.
So
I
you didn't have like a coping mechanism?
no, I didn't.
No.
Ironically to say, I still to this day, I guess walking with confidence
Hmm.
from the day it happened until the day right now, I have taken life by the horn and just accepting that this is who I am. This is who I am.
Okay. Now one thing is, do you consider yourself disabled?
No, sir, definitely
No,
not.
sir, you don't.
No, sir, definitely not.
So you,
And if you consider me disabled, we're gonna get them up. We're gonna get them up.
yes, so definitely differently abled, but you don't seem like you would consider yourself disabled.
I mean, at the end of
Because
the
I mean, at
day,
the end of the day, it's not a disability,
right. But if
but
you want me to clap for you, it's just not going to happen, right, Cam?
yeah,
There's
if
certain
they want
things.
you to clap, then there's something
Right,
wrong.
right, exactly. If you want me to jump rope, probably not. That's probably not going
Yeah,
to happen.
probably wouldn't be a
But I
good.
can jump. I can
You
jump
probably
with the
wouldn't be a
best of
good
them.
NFL referee because they
Yeah,
gotta hold their arms up
I'll
with
throw yellow flags and red flags all
they
day.
have to hold both their arms up on touchdowns.
Oh yeah, well then it would be like I guess just statue man. I
Yeah.
would be like the what's the blow up thing at the car salesman that just
Oh, I don't know
waves in
what
the
that's
air.
called, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that would totally be me on the
Oh my
field for
goodness.
sure.
So what is one thing that you admire about yourself, but what's another thing that you think could be improved?
Wow, Cam, you've done some serious homework, bro. And you say this is your first interview,
Yeah,
dude. You're killing me. You're
I'm
killing me,
prepared.
Smalls. You're killing me. Um, let's see. Wow, I think just wow, dude. That's rough, man. That's hard. How long did it take for you to come up with that question?
Um, well, I had them in my head, but I thought of that question last night.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
was trying to go to sleep and I thought about
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's probably when you think your best thoughts is when you're like between sleep and still awake.
Definitely.
As far as improving, I think I can improve myself with not being so like hard on myself, right? Because I mean, I'm my own worst critic. I
Hmm.
don't need anybody else to tell me what I'm judging myself on or what I'm pissed off
Hmm.
about with. I don't. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to curse on
No,
your
you.
channel,
I
but
mean,
as far as being
you can
aggravated,
cuss if you want to. It's
no
fine.
way. I think we're gonna keep it clean for the
I mean,
kids. Um,
I'm tell you the truth. I do cuss a whole lot,
yeah.
so
Well, it's but what
I'm not the best at it.
well, you must have washed your mouth out with soap before we started this
I
thing.
mean,
Because I haven't heard the first cuss word.
I normally do
That's
cuss,
good.
but
Well, I'm glad that you're not. On a serious note, I think that I've come to just realize and understand that life has been hard, right?
hmm
And I've gone through the struggle, but it still doesn't stop me from convicting myself of self pity.
hmm
I think self pity is the worst subject to disaster that you could possibly have in
Yes.
trials and tribulations. Um, whatever your drive may be, whatever it is that's keeping you pushing and living your best life.
Hmm.
Um, for me, it was just me. It was
Okay.
me. It was me just accepting myself for me and realizing that, hey, I wasn't meant to be on this earth to be normal or to
That's
be
how I
like
look at it.
society.
That's how I look at it.
Right.
Is I made, I was made this way by God for a reason.
For sure. Facts.
And like I said in my first video, for a while I didn't really know what the reason was. But then I just, the more and more trials I went through, like there is a story I'm going to tell you later,
Okay.
uh, about being it's like being hospitalized. And I mean, I can go ahead and break it down a little bit, but basically when I was, it was like, let me guess, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that February. The night before, I wasn't feeling the best. I was feeling like I was getting sick.
Right.
And so my dad like went to work. Then he's like, I'm gonna come back later and get you up. And my sister was, at the time, was there because I mean she lived there too. And she came downstairs, and it was like 8 in the morning. And I just was not acting right. Like I was telling her that the Titans were on the way to come get me out of bed.
Yeah.
So we end up. My dad heads home. He's like, "All right, we're gonna go to the hospital because something is not right." And it had snowed the night before, so my ramp was iced over. And my dad's like, "There's no way he can drive down that." And I started getting worse, so they called the ambulance. I don't remember any of this, right?
Yeah.
The ambulance, they get me in the back of the ambulance, and they're just driving kind of slower with no lights because, like, I'm still coherent. My blood pressure, all that's good. And then, like, at the time, my sister was right behind the ambulance the entire time. And then they, all of a sudden, my blood pressure goes like 20 over 10.
Mm.
And they start speeding. They're like 90 miles per hour behind the ambulance. And they had to, my dad was with me. They had to call my sister, tell her to slow down. So I end up in the trauma unit flatline, like completely flatline.
Mm.
And they brought me back. And the first thing I remember, one of the first things was they said, "Do you like music?" And the first person I said to play was Jelly Roll. And it's just kind of odd. And I met Jelly Roll after all this happened. But I didn't tell him all this. I was just so,
Yeah, for sure.
like, shell shocked. But that's one thing I remember the most.
I'll tell you what, he probably would love to hear it. He probably would love to hear the fact that you didn't tell him this story.
Yeah,
For sure.
I mean, it was pretty traumatizing. And and then last year, I had two surgeries, and they were I needed desperately, and um, they were needed desperately, and it was they didn't think I was gonna be able to have, like they didn't think I was gonna be able to be on anesthesia,
Yeah.
and I woke back up like literally like an hour after the surgery, and it was just crazy.
Yeah, I'd say
But the
so.
thing about being flatlined, it was just wild.
Yeah, I've been there. I've actually experienced that as well
Mm.
as far as passing away. I think they lost me 3 times from the boating accident. And
Man, that's incredible that you survived though.
well, yeah, no, definitely right. Such a traumatic experience. But then even also as you as well, we have a story to tell. And I'm also gonna quote this because I want your channel to leave this quote when it comes to your first interview and it being
Mm-hmm.
one arm clay. No story is greater than the next. We all have a story to tell.
Yeah,
The only
yeah.
thing that makes our stories different is if they're not told.
That's a really good quote.
Period.
That's powerful. Um, man, just It's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we could probably sit in front of your camera for a couple of days. We might even have to turn up and just do a whole weekend podcast of
Yeah, or something, or
yeah,
episodes,
yeah,
or
yeah.
I need to take a break. This first episode is sponsored by the Dopest Baker. Get all your edible needs from my mom. One thing I meant to ask you earlier, like you said, obviously you were born in Houston. When did you come out to Tennessee?
So my mother was chasing a boyfriend into Nashville. I was 15, 16 years old, and she packed us up and we moved, which I've got an awesome story to tell with that moving escapade. And she'll probably kill me if she ever sees this, but she was driving this massive U-Haul with my Jeep Cherokee on the trailer, and I was
Mm-hmm.
driving her Lincoln Grand Marquis. It was like a big pillow, is what it was. Like candy red leather interior. And I can remember driving down the interstate and it just, Cam, when I say it just glided and just rocked you to sleep, it rocked you
Really?
to sleep. And at that age, I was bored. And of course, I was smoking pot. And so I had been smoking
Mm-hmm.
some pot and I was just bored. It was just such a long drive at such a young age. And I guess I had kind of paid attention to something else
Mm-hmm.
and veered off and ran over the the dun, 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 dun things.
Oh, like
And
the white line.
right, yeah, and she was behind me. When I say that woman floored that big U-Haul pulling that Jeep Cherokee and that trailer and passed me and was like, pull over right now. She pulled over in front of me and I pulled over. And Cam, when she got out of that U-Haul and she was walking towards me, it was like she had Corella hair. She was so mad. 18 wheelers were passing, blowing her hair all kinds of ways,
I
and
bet.
she had that facial expression like, "What are you doing?" And so, make a long story short, it took us 3 days to get from Texas to Nashville because I just wasn't a good long distance driver.
Mm.
Yeah, even with, well, 10 and 2. Well, I'm not 10 and 2. I'm a 12 o'clocker, but you know.
Um. So I saw. Speaking of your mom, I saw a video on your TikTok, and I'm probably gonna include some of it.
Well, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom. Thanks,
Oh my
Mom.
god! Oh my god! Oh my
Thanks,
god!
Mom. I know, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. I know. I know. Hey, we did it. We did it. We did it.
You actually surprised your mom.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you explain some of that?
Yeah. So, do you want me to go into details with what caused me to surprise her?
Yes.
Okay. So, at the young age of 18, um, it was November 12th of 1999
Mm-hmm.
when I turned 18. January the 9th of 2000, I was running around with the wrong crowd, getting myself with the wrong people,
Mm-hmm.
and a drug deal took place that went badly. I was sent to prison
Oh man.
for 20 years.
Wow.
And so when I got out, my mother had no idea that I was getting out. And yeah, I drove all the way from Memphis, Tennessee to Florida to
Mm-hmm.
surprise her at her job. And it was probably one of the best, most monumental experiences I've ever had with there's nothing like a mother's love, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing like being a son, you're going to
Yeah.
protect the last person on this earth that you're not going to protect is your mom.
Yes.
And so yeah, it was cool. I was thankful. Shout out to Rosanna for helping set up the GoPro cam in surprising her at her job, her thinking that I was closing on a house when I was really just a guy wearing a wig with a bunch of paper shoved in his sleeve that looked like two arms.
Now, who reached out to you about that? Then you were saying earlier that Mari Povich.
Yeah, so the Maury show, well, it went viral. And right this minute, the TV show Right This Minute bought it. They contacted me and aired it on their show.
They
And
bought it.
yeah, they copyrighted it.
How much?
They copyrighted it, and Maury Povich reached out to me afterwards and wanting to bring me on to the show. Fly me into Cincinnati and do a story on just my past. But I think life got the best of me in feeling like I needed to get a job, I needed to get a place to live, I needed to provide for myself. I was a grown man now. I have responsibilities and accountabilities. I couldn't get sucked into my story,
Okay.
and so I allowed just trying to be someone having a hard time surviving after release, of course, because of being a convicted felon and trying to find a job. It was hard, it was rough, and I let it suck me in instead of going the route of just telling my story.
I mean, I get that maybe. I mean, I I would understand not doing it, but at the same time, I don't know what you were thinking at the time.
Well,
Just getting
I'm
out.
kicking myself in the rear now, Cam.
You
I
are.
mean, yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, come on, who wants to hang out with Mari Povich? You are not the father. Thank you, Mari. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I don't blame you. He seems like a cool guy, but
Yeah.
um. So I also saw videos. You golf.
Of course, definitely, 100%. I grew up golfing. My father raised me on a golf course at the country club, and he just really, I guess he didn't view me as a son that went through a traumatic experience with one arm. He viewed me as, hey son, the yard still needs to be mowed. I don't know how to tell you how to tie your shoes or how to mow the yard, but it needs to be done. And so I just kind of figured it out on my own. And so yeah, golfing is
So he
definitely.
didn't go. He didn't go take it easy on you.
Oh, of course not. And thank God, props to my
Yeah,
dad on
that's
that. Props for my dad not catering to me and considering me being disabled for sure.
yeah. Um, I'm sure. I'm sure that was interesting, to say the least. If he wasn't, catering to you, it was probably pretty tough at times.
I don't know. Like, I mean, it was tough, definitely, because I want to meet his standards. I wanted to. I
Hmm.
mean, of course, every young boy wants to please his dad and what he asks him to do. And I mean, even coming to playing sports, I wanted to be my best for my father. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Um. Now I hear that you got game and swag.
No, no,
You got
not.
game with the ladies.
No, not really.
You
Definitely
don't.
not. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it. You know what? This is the thing that men are lacking these days, Cam, is confidence and just being themselves, right?
Hmm.
So, like, don't portray yourself to be something that you're
That you're
not.
not. Yeah.
Right. Just be you. And trust me, that is the most attractive thing as far as even a female or a male. Just be you and embrace it,
Yeah.
and you've got your own swag and your own style.
Because a lot of people aren't confident in themselves,
Definitely, for sure.
or they have self conscious issues.
Right.
But I mean, if you're confident, it would definitely help.
Exactly. That's like if you and I were to go out to a club right now, I'd expect you to do donuts on the dance floor. I mean, because how many other people are able to do donuts on the dance floor? I expect to hear those tires screeching. Yeah.
Donuts. I've taken this like on ice before, like at a like it it's a church thing, and I tried to take it on the ice, but it didn't work out very
Yeah, I'd
well.
say not. Yeah. Probably have to put some chains on those things, and then you really get catch traction.
Yeah. Okay. So the other just like random question, but if you were stranded on an island, what are three things you would take with you?
Wow. If I was stranded on an island, what are three things I would take with me? Probably a can of snuff. I'd have to have a dip of snuff because I would be stressed out. Um, I would probably take a firework.
A firework.
Yeah, because I'm stranded. I need some help. Like
Okay.
I want to know that I have this one firework when I have my one shot at
So
it.
like a flare almost.
Yeah, well, yeah, to gain somebody's attention.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good one.
Yeah, and then
I feel like people wouldn't think about that.
oh yeah, no, definitely. You're stranded on this island. You better think how you're gonna survive. Yeah. I mean, I'm not one guy that can survive out in the wilderness, bro. Like, I mean, you want me to start a fire and what, twiddling a stick? I'll probably have to use like my foot and my hand at the same time, just start a fire. And the third thing I would say would probably be my mom.
Your mom?
I'd have my mom stranded on the island with me so I could hear
I
her
respect
light a
those. Those
fire
are all
underneath
good
my
answers.
tail and getting us up out of this situation that
Those
we're
are
in.
good answers.
Yeah, facts.
What kind of music do you like?
Everything. Except
Everything?
for opera. Don't
Opera?
bore
I
me.
don't-
No, dude, I will go to sleep on opera. Not having.
Kind of like. What about classical music?
I mean, I like classical. I enjoy classical. I'll tell you another thing that I can't do is that like that real hardcore rock that's like screaming, makes you want to run your head through a wall.
Man, I used to listen to all
It
that.
makes you want to mosh pit and fight everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a huge rap fan, like huge. Like I keep up with it a lot.
That's cool.
But I mean, I used to listen to rock for a while. I'm not like the biggest on country, but I'll listen to it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd say those are the two genres that I really just can't get into. Just not my forte. But anything else, count me in.
I mean, I don't really listen to me. I really just listen to rap and old rock music.
Right. I mean, I can go from Nirvana to Tupac to Morgan Wallen in 3.5 seconds.
I probably couldn't tell you like one Morgan Wallen song. I seriously doubt it.
I could tell you, he just cut his mullet off, and the whole world is going crazy over it.
Yeah, I saw Theo Von was kind of saying that we lost him because he shaved his head.
Yeah, I'd say probably Theo Von's probably next. He'll cut the mullet eventually.
Oh man, that's
it's getting ready to go away, bro.
Yeah, Jelly Roll.
We're bringing the skin tight fade back. That's right, Jelly. Tell him, pretty boy fade.
Yeah, Jelly cut his mullet.
Yep. He chopped it off.
Wallen cut it.
Yep.
So now I know there's a nickname. I mean, my mom referred to you as Lefty.
Yeah.
But I've also heard One Arm Clay.
Yeah.
Where did the One Arm Clay come from?
The One Arm Clay came in from Antioch, South Nashville, when Jelly Roll and Robbie McJunkin and a couple of us guys, Chris Kirby, Maurice Jackson, a couple of us guys ripping and running through the streets, and we all had nicknames. And so they came up with the nickname, hey, One Arm Clay. And so through my teenage years, that's what I was known as One Arm Clay. And then when I ended up in prison at the age of 18, I met a gentleman named Stephen Evans. He's my best friend still to this day. Love him to death. Shout out to Stephen Evans. He come up with Lefty.
Lefty?
Yep. And it just kind of stuck.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you have some influence on the name Jelly Roll? I've heard that you may have, but I'm not sure.
So Jason, aka Jelly Roll, and I, when we were kids, of course, ripping and running the streets as hoodlums do. We were getting high one day, smoking some weed, and we had the munchies, and I grabbed a honey bun, and he grabbed a honey bun, and I was like, wait, I would have thought you would have went for the Jelly Roll, and I just had a figment of imagination ping. It just pinged off in my head. I was like, wait a second, why are we not calling you Jelly Roll? And he was like, that's crazy. That's what my mom used to call me when I was younger. And I was like, all right, Jelly Roll it is. You'll be Jelly Roll, and I'll be One Arm Clay.
Man, that sounds familiar because I've smoked weed with Jelly Roll. Granted, we didn't have the munchies, but we smoked some weed.
Well, you don't want to see Jelly Roll have the munchies. Trust me.
The name Jelly Roll.
So I'm obviously looked the part, and my mother named me that whenever I was a little chubby kid. Been fat my whole life. And she started calling me Jelly Roll when I was young, and I spent the next 30 years trying to grow into the name. I think I've done it. And yeah, it just stuck. And then I had a guy in high school that jokingly called me Jelly Roll. He didn't know that was my house name. And his name was One Arm Clay, and you won't believe it, but he had one arm. And One Arm Clay was like, we should call you Jelly Roll. I'm One Arm Clay, and you'll be Jelly Roll. It's like, my mama calls me Jelly Roll. And then once the high school starts calling you something, you know, that's the kid and caboodle.
Oh, man. Huh?
Tell a story about how you met Jelly Roll.
Oh, so I also, when I met Jelly Roll, me and 3 of my 4 best friends, I don't know where the 4th one was. I don't know why he couldn't go. But, I think me and him, like, have, like, this silly little beef that friends have, like, not bad, just we weren't talking to each other, hanging out. But anyways, we went down to Huntsville, Alabama, to a concert that was this was in August 2021, so the same year that I was hospitalized and all that. It was like probably 1,100 people venue, just standing room.
Yeah.
And we started out in the very back, and all these people were like clearing a path for me to get up to the front. So we were up front for the show. Then at the end, he like pointed at me, and like it's got a security, and they took us backstage. We waited there for like 40 minutes for him. And then we talked to him, and like I said, we smoked some weed with him.
Yeah.
With like a cop standing right there, but he was cool with it.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of crazy. And then that next year, I was at a Titans game, and he has a signature truck that he drives. And
Yeah.
window was down.
Yeah, the Dodge.
And he drove around
the Beast.
And he saw us on the sidewalk, and he like recognized us. He's like, "Yeah, I've met you at one of my shows." And he was like, "Yeah, I think it was the Huntsville one, which is exactly when I met him." Just thought that was crazy. He recognized me.
Yeah, let me tell you, I will say he's one of the most humble, memorable people you will ever meet in life. There's nothing that man hasn't experienced or gone through in life or met that he can pinpoint you from a mile away. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that how much humility he has.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and just being non-judgmental, and just being a person that, like, if you're all about living life, then he's all for you.
Yeah.
Because that man's all about living life and putting smiles on people's faces.
Yeah, shout out Jelly Roll, seriously.
Shout out Jelly Roll.
So I have a buddy, he goes by 100K Tug. Do you know who he is?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, Jelly Roll he co-signed them like a couple years ago, but man, this has been a great interview. Been an amazing interview.
Definitely.
I really don't have much else.
I agree. Like, I feel like we should do some kind of, you need to come up with like some kind of signature closing series of every interview that you do. So what idea could you come up with right now in closing any interview that you come across that's your signature that you could probably patent? Even if it's just you tipping your glasses or something, or something cool, something that's swagged about you.
Man, you kind of put me on the spot.
I did put you on the spot, Cam. We got to have a signature, Cam. Okay, until next time.
Well, I really don't know.
Yeah, you got to come up with something, Bubba. Even if it's just saying like a quote or something. Even if you can just come up with a quote that's different and unique, that's yours.
It's been real in wheels.
It's been real in wheels. I like that. That's a good one. That sticks out. So after every interview, you just go, "It's been real in wheels," and then you do you have your interview, whoever you're interviewing, high five the camera.
Okay.
Is that a deal? So from here on out, it's been real
in wheels.
In wheels, and then the person you're interviewing high fives the freaking camera, and then it shuts off.
I like that.
That sounds cool.
All right, guys. Awesome. Well, I really hope y'all enjoyed it, and man,
thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Once it got going, it was nothing.
Oh yeah, no, it was easy. It was definitely
I
natural.
appreciate you being the first guest. It really
Oh no,
means
I
a lot.
appreciate you having me. It's been my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to more. And yeah, anytime you want me to come on to the show,
Okay.
I will. I'm more than happy to oblige to kick the door in and cause complete havoc,
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
complete chaos.
Mention something about the next, even though you don't know who it's going to be yet. Mention,
Yeah, stay tuned.
yeah, stay tuned for
more videos and interviews. I will probably have, and please subscribe.
When he was in prison, I used to tell him, Clay, I've been writing songs and I think they're helping people. I think I'm going to make a living making music. And when you get home, we're going to go to sold out shows across the United States of America. So talk to me, oh Florida, please. You ever lost somebody you love and you feel like me? I said talk to me, oh Panama City, please. Ever lost someone you love? Then put your hands up and sing this motherfucker with us. I hope that heaven has a smoking section. Oh, come on, y'all, let's take it to church. God damn, y'all sound good. When it's said and done, we're all gone. I hope we got a place that we can blow. I hope that heaven has a smoking section. I love you. One more time, come on, play.
Cheers to the first Reels in Wheels, and many more to come. Ugh.